it's time to dust off that old About Me profile you wrote a few years ago and update it. Update it with photos and stories behind the photos. And you'll be amazed at the difference the school year will be. Because when you share storied photos with teachers and other people that work with your child, they get such it's a more robust picture of your whole child. They'll learn things like what they love to do, how they learn best, things that they're interested in. And all of that helps make a stronger relationship between your child's teacher and your child. So I'm excited because today you're going to be learning some specific tips that you can put into use right away. So stay tuned. Baby. And I am so thrilled that I can introduce you to my friend, Barb Orozco. You might have seen her a couple years ago. She is back for a repeat performance. It's kind of like being back on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're the host again.
When do I get the jacket? Don't we get a
I
special
know, I
jacket?
know. It has. I think it's like 5 shows or
Is it
so.
5 shows? Okay.
Well, what's amazing is Barb and I are great friends, and we've never met in person. I bet you have some of those friends too. And what I love about Barb is the things that we have in common. We were both teachers. She was also a passionate advocate of inclusion since 1975 when she was teaching. She also went on to be a birth doula and educator. So she has a wide variety of experiences. And she was the brainchild behind this new program that I am so excited to introduce you to. So it's called, let's see, I gotta make sure I get the name right. So it's Photo Rescuing and Bust Your Backlog Sprints. And I'll be putting the link for that Facebook group. It's a free Facebook group that you can join. So, Barb, I'm so looking forward to you sharing the insights and the almost like magical things that happen when you not only share a photo with someone, but you have that story behind the photo. So, welcome, welcome, Barb.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. It is so good to be here. Thank you for having me back. I love sharing about the power of storied photos. And when I say photos, that also includes videos and audios. But we're, just understand that it's even more than photos, but photos are usually the star of the show. Yeah, but it's
Yes.
really nice to be here. Thank you, Charmaine.
Well, I know a lot of parents are really interested. I think because they do, a lot of parents have a PowerPoint or maybe a video or an About Me kind of flyer to hand to teachers. But what you're going to share with us today is just how we can really exemplify that and make it so much more personal when we're talking about our own kiddos.
Yeah, basically what I found is that the focus tends to be on the photos. And what I've discovered, that adage, photo is worth 1,000 words.
All right.
Well, guess what? It's only worth 1,000 words to the people who were there at the time the photo was taken. And it hasn't been so long that they've forgotten about it. So when we just present people with photos, they really lose their meaning pretty quickly. And it's the stories that we add to the photos that bring context and tangibly uh, let people know what we want them to know, not only about the photo or the image, but um, the people in it. So, yeah,
Cool.
it was a real shocker to me when I discovered that.
I bet. So tell us more.
Well, it was actually so I started doing what I'm doing in July 5th of, I was saying 2002. I forgot when I started. I started in 2001. So I just celebrated 22 years, not 21. And I went into it with the idea of, I mean, I just bought into everything that was told us by the photo industry. Everything. I mean, I tried so hard to decorate pages, and I just tried so hard. And it's not that I'm not smart enough to do it. It seemed like, why why? And so it was just hard for me to do it. But so I'm telling you the 2002 thing because it was what happened in 82 that I didn't realize until really it was February 2nd, 2003. And that was the power of storied photos. And it was, should I tell the story, Charmaine?
Yes, yes, I
Okay,
love
okay. It was when my dad was in the hospital. He had a massive heart attack, April of 1985, 82, 1982. How could I forget that? Massive heart attack in April of 1982. And when I went into his room in the ICU, I mean, you got to know about my dad. He was incredibly charismatic, so handsome. He would walk in a room and just commanded attention from anyone in the room, males, females. Was able to create rapport with anyone. I mean, he would just be the star of the show. And I was used to people always reacting very, very positively to him. And when I went into his room, there he is after a massive heart attack. And the staff was awesome. They were very um, uh, uh, skillful and very professional and very detached. And I thought to myself, no, 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 no. This can't be good. I had no idea about the research that I was going to read in early 2000s that proved what I then observed, but wasn't clued in enough to understand what I was observing. I just knew that I needed to connect them to my dad. I knew it. So I scurried to their house, picked up photos, loose photos, brought them
Mhm.
in. And every time I was able to go in, because in those days, I don't know what it's like now. In those days, we were restricted to 5 minutes every hour. So those 5 minutes, trust me, I was grabbing people. I had those pictures, and I was in the room with my dad. But I'm telling people about him, grabbing their attention with the photo, and telling them all about him. I was, I, I don't even have words for it even today. Just so surprised when I saw a shift in how they interacted with him. I had no clue that, I mean, I hoped that would happen, but I had no guarantee that that would happen. And it did. It shifted how they interacted with him. And I mean, they touched him more tenderly. They talked to him more connectedly. I mean, it was just what I knew was the last 6 weeks of his life had been positively impacted by those photos and what I said with them. It wasn't until February 2nd, 2003, that I realized that the photos had grabbed their attention and the stories had captured their hearts. I didn't know. And then from there, I said to myself, oh my gosh, I've been spending all this time trying to master decorating around my photos, and that's a complete and utter waste of real estate. What I need to be doing is adding the stories so my kids and my husband and the people I care about, including myself, have tangible reminders and proof that of who they are, that I see them, that I hear them, and that who they are matters. And so that's kind of rolling it into a ball how that happened, because I promise you, until that day, I was completely convinced that it was all about decorating pages and creating works of art. I had no clue it was about creating works of art. I had no idea. And then I've seen it ever since. I mean, the stories I could tell.
Oh, I know, and I think that's so incredible, and to be able to like be in the hospital with your dad and to see that shift of the nurses and
Mhm.
doctors and therapists and everything coming in.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's what I would like it to be for kids at school. You
Hmm.
know, so everybody at school, not just their classroom teacher, but
Hmm.
the music teacher, the lady in the cafeteria, or whatever.
Hmm.
Like people actually know our kids and something about them, not just, oh, there's one of those kids, walking down the hall. But
Hmm.
so I know you've also, even though you didn't know it at the time, I think like during your teaching, I think you've probably you've probably helped a lot of kids even before you had this program. Um, so I don't know. What would you like to talk about next? Because I'm just so enthralled with how a story with a photo can make such a difference.
It really can. I think the thing that that I the biggest, we need to back up just a little bit, I think, because what I've found is that usually people cannot hear what I have to say about stories because they've been so programmed and conditioned by the photo industry that it has to be beautifully decorated.
Right.
It has to be. And until I'm able to help people realize how, sure, hobbies are very important. I get it. I mean, there's all sorts of research that shows how healthy, how important it is to our health to have hobbies. Um, the problem is that when we turn our photos into the hobby, it tends to be decorative.
Huh.
And so I usually say to my clients, have hobbies, have 5 hobbies. Just don't let it be your photos. Because your photos as a decorative hobby, you, as I say, that's valuable real estate. And
Right.
there's never been a decoration, a, a paper, and anything. Had I brought in photos of pages on photos that were beautifully decorated, I mean, exquisitely decorated, those the staff would have gotten nothing from that other
Right.
than, oh yeah, okay, he's a really good looking guy. They would not have gotten who he is and how he was just full of vinegar and all this stuff that had them relate. And so, if I can get people, first, it's a matter of moving beyond the belief that it must be a crafty hobby.
Right.
And when we can do that, then we can do things like, um, my grandson, when he was in high school, I knew they were looking at him in a certain way. I knew they were, and they were looking at him through all the things that he struggled with.
Right.
And when I brought in his the fact that the very first thing he tackled, he loves to cook, and that he can make, oh come on, lava cakes. You know,
Oh,
those yummy chocolate lava cakes. They were, their jaws dropped.
huh.
They were, huh? He can do, and he taught himself. I just
Well,
helped him with some of the measurements. But when I, and other people have noticed that when they're able to tangibly show not just the photos, but then talk about how it came about,
hmm.
how he initiated it,
Yeah.
because they didn't really see him initiating things.
Huh.
he was just fitting into the system. And so it can make it real. I'm not sure that I answered your question, but
Well, yeah, and I just think about the time to put all the decorative stitch or stickers and plan out different things. The amount of time that takes to decorate, and how you could use that time and write a story that would
right.
have so much more impact. And that's what I think is so important because I think as parents, and I know I did this with Dylan, was, after this, towards the end of summer, we made this little photo album and I just had like typed, little captions that went with each photo.
Mhm.
But, like what you pointed out, like, they could look at a photo of your grandson cooking and baking and go, well, that's so cool. And, oh, I love lava cake too. But no, the story behind it is
Mhm.
this is something he was passionate about. This is
Mhm.
something he initiated, took time. He learned, he was reading, he was doing math. It's like there's more than just, oh, I love lava cakes too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so much easier than anyone can imagine it is. It's so much
Right.
easier. I mean, I slap a photo on a page and tell the story. Oh wow. You know, the longest thing. Now, of course, you can really, it's like, oh my gosh, I really would like to get my photo mess taken care of and get it organized so that I can use it to create more pages for this. Sure. There's a learning curve with that. But I'm talking about like what you're going to do on Friday with the Canva.
Right.
Um, uh, it's so doable. You just slap it on a page and tell the story, and digitally slap it on a page and tell the story. It's so much easier than anyone imagines, and so much more powerful. So much more powerful. So,
Cool. Well, what else do you want? I don't know. I know you have some examples, but I don't know what you'd like to talk about next. Like, so
well,
where do you want to go?
okay. So, what I would love to do is, I would love to, if a person, I'd love to know. Um, I would so love to know from anyone who is here, if you have been really caught up, as I was, in how it needs to look, because if you are willing to be a little vulnerable and say, yeah, I mean, that's all we hear, and yeah, I mean, you're talking to someone who was exactly there. Absolutely. I struggled. I was introduced to creative memories in 1995, fell in love by a very dear friend, fell in love with it, and struggled from 1995 until February 2nd, 2003, to do it the right way, which was highly decorative. And I never completed. When I started my business, I owned over $1,200 worth of product and had never completed an album or a page. But I just knew it was something that would matter. And I was bound and determined to learn how to do it the right way, which was decorative, and then teach others how to do it the right way. You could have knocked me over with a feather February 2nd, 2003, when I learned, So, yeah, when I learned, no, that's an option. That's certainly an option to do it decoratively, but that's not the way. As a matter of fact, until 1980, and Mary Ellen Christensen came along, it was not a decorative hobby. It was photo stories and memorabilia on a page. That was it. Then it turned into a hobby, and crafty and expensive, and yeah, it that's not how. So decorating is a way, but when we're talking about using it, using our photos and stories to make a difference, to use it educationally with the therapist, with anyone working with our child, so they can see more of him or her and who they are, then it's all about stories. So The first thing I'd love to know is if anyone um, is willing to say that, yeah, feeling like they need to decorate is it just stops them every time. And if no one's going to go there, then I will go to the next thing. And if you see anything, Charmaine, let me know. The next thing is where to start, literally where to start. And I'm going to make this as clear as I possibly can. The most important thing is for you to know what you want to say and what you want others to know about your child. One of my clients 2 weeks ago, when she said, "Dump on it, I forgot to take pictures." I guess it was 4th of July, actually, maybe. I forgot to take pictures of my child at 4th of July, and there were some things I want. And I said, "So it doesn't matter if you don't have pictures; just write down what you want, um, remi- to know about that what you want others to know about it." And her jaw dropped literally. Really? Without the pictures? Yeah. You don't actually have to have photos, but photos do grab attention. So those stories can capture hearts. So when you do have photos, if you know what you want others to know and hear about your child and can capture some photos, awesome. And then you just put the two together. And it's a matter of working current. It's a matter of working current. And then it's, like you're saying, okay, but I'm thinking of this thing from a year and a half ago that I really want them to see about my child. Great, put that in there. Go ahead and grab those, get those on the page. And I'm thinking digitally, but it can be traditionally. And then tell the story. Tell what you want them to know about your child that is triggered by that photo or image. The most important thing for me is that you're able to get started, is that you are able to say to yourself, just do it. Just let me grab some photos and let me write about my kid. And that's it. That's the most important thing.
And if I can click on the right button, I can appear again. So I'm like listening so intently. It's, yeah. So I love that too. It's like, okay, you don't have a photo of that exact thing that you want to share with teachers, but guess what? You can still write about it, right?
Exactly.
What a concept.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and this is shocking to so many, the most important thing on the page is the story. The photo is secondary, but it will grab attention. So when you have one, awesome. Use it.
Right, right.
Yeah. And it's the opposite of what everyone, it's the opposite of how I was conditioned to think. So I've been there, done that. I get it. Got the t
Right.
shirt.
I know, I know, I know. So I love it. I love it. And if you're watching the replay, make sure you can put in comments or questions.
Yes.
We'll circle back and answer them. And if you just joined us, we're talking about the power of storied photos, not just photos, right? Um, and so continue, Barb, because I love relearning things from you.
Oh, well, thank you. Say that again. I missed that.
I was saying, just continue on
Oh,
because
continue.
I
Okay.
love
Great.
relearning
Great.
from
Well,
you.
thank you. And I am a broken record. I mean, it's like no surprises, Barb. You're saying the same thing you always say, which is,
Well,
you know,
but that's the truth, right?
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
yeah. That's why I renamed my Facebook group Rescue Photos Bus Backlog, because that's what we're about. And, everyone is so concerned about their backlog that that's what they focus on. And I'm asking you and I'm begging you, it's, well, I have a whole thing about the backlog. And that is absolutely not the first thing that we need to be working with. But if you're thinking that in this instance, please just rise above that and just grab the photos that you think will help you grab the attention for what you're wanting to write. And just do that. Don't worry about backlog. Don't worry about everyone's concerned now about getting all of their media that they've ever taken, every photo, every digital image, every video, and every audio that they've ever taken in their entire lifetime, centralized in one location before they can do anything. No, that's a part of it, but it's absolutely not the first step. It's a few steps down the road. The first step is to be working current, yet I make an exception in this instance when we are putting something together specifically for teachers, therapists, whoever we're wanting to see our whole child, all the pieces of our child. That's where I'll say, yeah, you can go into wherever you know something is, grab those, and then use those as you're telling your story. But the most important thing is to ignore the mess, ignore the backlog, ignore any rules that you've heard, and just grab those photos and tell your stories. And it's really simple. And I would love to show you, it would now be an okay time, Charmaine, to just go through at least some of the pages just to show you how incredibly simple it can be.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm having technical difficulties. It's like my computer is going like so slow today. So yeah.
So I need to start it, right?
I'll put this also full screen, and let me take off the other thing. Sorry. Can you tell I haven't done a Facebook Live in a while?
You're doing great. You are. You truly are. And you've been amazing with surgery. Oh my gosh, your recovery. Do you all see how simple? It's we don't have to necessarily go through all of them. There's about 20 images there. But you can see how simple it can be. It can be one big image on a page and you add the story. The only rule is you don't need to decorate. It's the only rule. And if you're sitting there going, oh, that just doesn't look the way I think it's supposed to look, then you're working with old muscle memory that's been conditioned, and we just have a little work to do to help you move past that. Yes. Because again, I was there and I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and I think your examples really help people to see that it can be impactful with, it doesn't have to be like a chapter in a book. That your story can describe the moments and everything without taking a lot of time.
Totally. These are traditional pages that I just threw in. And just as an example, but probably the quickest thing is digital, which is right. What you're going to be doing on Friday.
Yes. Yes. I just love these.
It's done.
It's so fun to see. And just the potential, and the other thing I think about too, because this month in our Connecting for Change group, we've talked about It's not only your child's classroom teacher, but it could be a scout leader that you want to share more about, with your child with them, or a piano teacher. So, or a doctor, right? I mean,
Yes.
there's like so many
Yes.
times I think we think of it as, oh, this is something we do at the beginning of the year,
Yes.
but it could work for lots of people.
And thank you so much for saying that, because there's an aspect of this that is 150% overlooked. And it is that it's not just you doing this. It can be anyone in the family. Is there a brother that wants to make sure people understand this about their brother or sister? Is there a therapist, a piano teacher, or whoever who wants to share their experience with this child? You can get all of that in there.
How cool.
Gone are the days where it is my sole responsibility to do all of this, and then they are my pages and I own them. No, the more voices you can get on this, the better. The more voices. So I truly encourage. Oh, and another tip. Let me share another tip. I would encourage you strongly to write on the page to your child.
Um,
Don't write it as if you're a
uh,
journalist reporting to the
that's
teachers and the therapists about your child. Write to your child. Oh, it was so cool that you
um,
investigated how to make such and such. And
oh,
was a young my grandson is a young man who struggles mightily with reading, and mightily. And so this did not come easily to him, but he was highly motivated because he loves to cook.
um,
And so to write to him, to write to whoever is the focus of these stories, write to them. When I see you gathering all this stuff for this cooking, and
uh,
when I see you, um and especially I love this, when they try something and it doesn't work, it's a flop. That's awesome. And talk about how they didn't quit, or maybe they were tempted to quit, but they still kept going. There's just so much that we can point out that we notice about our kids. Oh, and can I share another thing? Ah,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. I want to dissuade you of the belief that when you are doing these pages, you are supposed to be saying, rah, rah, you're the best, you're fabulous, you're amazing, oh my gosh, you're the winner, you're No, 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 no. That's a waste of time. And that is probably 99.9% of what is written
Um,
traditionally about someone's child.
right.
There's so much research out there comparing how when we do that, it causes our kids to be less willing to try something difficult. Just as an aside, educationally or in life, I'm sharing this with you. When we yay you're rah rah, you're just that causes them to be less willing. There's so much research, less willing to risk not being the best at it. And so they will not do things that they think might be difficult. Whereas if we instead ask them, how did you do this? How did you manage? How did you get these lava cakes made? How did you? One of my other grandsons was on a football team. Am I right? Yes, football team. That they lost almost every one of their games, but That was just one season. And he kept going. He kept going. He kept plugging away. And I asked him, how is it that, in spite of what was going on, you kept doing your best? You kept showing up and you kept that positive attitude. That's what's important to put in the books, the things that we notice and how they did something. And the research showed when those two groups were compared, the group that was asked how they did it, uh, they were more willing to then tackle more difficult things because they felt more competent. So I really want to dissuade you from thinking that you need to be putting anywhere. You're just the best and you're fabulous. Those are empty words and they work against you.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because, to me, when I look at wanting, people at school to, when Dylan was in school, for people to know about Dylan and not to just, read what was on the IEP document or something, but to be able to know about kind of the ups and downs and all arounds of what it's like, and just yeah, I think that's a great point to say. It's not just to focus on the T-ball trophy or
Mm-mm.
something,
Mm-mm.
but what was behind being on that T-ball team, and how you learned following directions of a different person, a coach, and which way you run the bases, because we know for T-ball.
Oh yeah, we experienced that too.
So yeah, it's like looking at what's a deeper message, because teachers' time is precious, and we want to make the biggest impact, and so I can't thank you enough, Barb, because you are just opening up so many of our eyes that it's not what the photo industry has told us all along, that we have to buy these scrapbook papers and this and that, and machines to cut out letters and all kinds of things, but there's a different way we can be doing this.
There really is. And again, another side benefit is when you keep this, when you write this to your child, and instead of Timmy did so and so, it's you. I saw you do so and so. It doesn't have to be written to the people who are going to read it. And it's going to be way more personal when they read it that you are writing to your child. Another side benefit is when you keep this available to your child, easily available to your child, they can go back and read it themselves if that's one of the options in their life. Yeah. Depending on.
Yeah. And I think, about like when our kids are having those no good, terrible, horrible, I want to move to Australia kind of days, that, I just have this image of sitting on the couch and, snuggling together and looking at the photos and rereading that to your child, or having them read it, and talk about a way to co-regulate and be together and switch your child when they're feeling like they can't do anything right and nobody likes them. And so, yeah, I mean, as a parent, that's going to be an awesome, and like you said, so it's accessible, right? So you can be able to show it.
Yeah. Something else popped into my brain and then it went away. Come back wherever you are. Come back.
I know. Well, I put the link for your free Facebook group in the comments, so I want people to go check that out. And can you give us a flavor of what you do over there in your Facebook group?
Well, sure. The point of this Facebook group is it's to focus in on one of the things that happens is you get this benefit, which
Yeah.
is a document that I've put together that talks about the status quo habits, and um, what the photo industry has conditioned us to do and to think, and then the rescuing your photos actions. And so, but I've done it as a scorecard. So you can score yourself on where you are, how close you are, or far away you are from doing rescuing your photos actions. And then I do, and I also, well, so I do, there are two things. One thing is evolving right now, and that is I've been doing these two events inside the group. One is on talking about one of the touch points, one of these touch points per month, and dissecting it. And then the second one is on talking about the untapped superpowers of our storied photos
Huh.
in our parenting, in medical situations, in just all sorts of different things, and it's evolving. But the Q&As for each of those events occur in the group. Those occur in the group, and right after the event, um, and it's an opportunity. This group is an opportunity to cut through all the stuff that has been layered on us that has kept us from being in action.
Right.
And it's not the how to do it. I mean, besides storied photos and not decorating, I mean, okay. The deep dive into the how to is the photo rescue lab. That's a separate thing. This is the let's take care of the stuff that has held us hostage, kept our photos in hiding, and learn why it's so important to spend time doing that by hearing those superpowers that we just haven't been able to take advantage of because we thought it was only about decorating and saving memories and creating legacy, which, by the way, saving memories and creating legacy will happen as a byproduct of using them now in your life. So,
Oh, I know. And I think about that, right? I think a lot of us are like, we want to go back and make a album for our grandchild from birth to 8th grade.
mhm.
And it's like, that's not going to be very helpful. So instead, if we start at 8th grade,
Start current. You
yes,
start working current. And when you start working current, that stops the backlog immediately. What's the number one way to stop building backlog? Start working current. But Barb, I haven't done all of my backlog yet. Guess what? If you keep thinking and trying to do all of your backlog, you'll only ever have backlog. Ever.
right.
What a concept.
I
But
know.
it's hey, again, I totally relate because that's what I kept thinking. It's
Oh,
what
I
I
know.
until it dawned on me.
Right. Right.
I've been
Yeah.
very fortunate to have some wonderful mentors in my life who just brought in the right piece that I needed that at the right time. And what's interesting is I'm the only one that's still doing it of those mentors.
Huh.
Yeah. So,
Huh. That is
yeah.
interesting. So, so as we kind of wrap up here, like what would be maybe if people are just joining in now, like what would be some ways that you've seen it apply with teachers in the school setting as far as the photos and the stories? So how would you kind of summarize those, examples?
Well, I haven't been at an IEP in for about 5 years now.
Congratulations.
So I don't know how it is now. So what I'm about to say, you might laugh at me, but what one of the things that I've done, and one of the things my clients would do is they would, or maybe you're going to say, yes, that's exactly what I do now, and my clients do now too. But they knew that at the first IEP meeting of the year, they needed to give me anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. I know you're going, what? I'm lucky to get 5. But they needed to give me time because we were going to be going through. We were going to be doing this and talking about this because it would set the tone for the rest of the meeting. And then every single time we got together, there wouldn't be 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes spent on this. I would say probably it was more like 15 or 20, realistically, 15 or 20. It wasn't less than that, because I would go in and I would also be teaching techniques and things like that. But remember, I did it for a living like you do too.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah. So I was doing a little bit of teacher training at the same time. So it was usually about 30 minutes. But anyway, so for this, even 10 or 15 minutes. And just because I found if I just say, go through this on your own time,
Yeah.
it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Maybe things have changed now. Have they changed? Can you rely on that?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, and then of course supply it to them, but then reference back to it. The other thing I forgot to mention is your child, if this is in their strengths, or something that they're wanting to do, they can also contribute to this. Alan,
Yes.
to these pages. What do you want your teachers to know?
Exactly.
You know,
And how cool and how empowering is that for kids, right?
Yeah.
Like they get to pick what's important to them to share.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the other thing I've been talking about in our Connecting for Change group is that we typically think about sharing this About Me profile, whatever, at the beginning of the year when teachers are the most busy. And I really want to encourage families to continue to share their storied photos throughout the year. And maybe when you get the progress report, that's the trigger. It's like, I could share some of these new photos, because, teachers aren't going to be able to remember all the things that you share right at the first of the year. But as we continue to share that, that's where, it will really form more of a connection. And I think really that teachers put in more effort for kids that they have a relationship with, for kids that they know.
Absolutely. I didn't realize what I had done with my dad until I read the research done by a young Israeli radiologist who required photos to be taken of he was doing a blind study, required photos to be taken of every procedure that a radiologist would evaluate. And he found that when a photo I'm really collapsing this down. He found that when a photo was attached to the radiology results, that the radiologists apparently are judged. The better the radiologists are the ones, the better radiologists are the ones that will catch outside of what they're studying, what they're testing, notice things that are going on. And he found that when there was a picture there, the reading, I'm not using the right words, the analysis was much better of the ancillary things than when the picture wasn't there. And he tested that by resubmitting the same reports to the same radiologist without the picture. They would have had no idea they were the same, and they didn't catch everything that they caught with the picture. And that hospital now requires a picture to be on every single diagnostic anything. And so when we create, and then they found that when they're, to your point, when they create, when there's a relationship, that's why when my grandson is in the hospital, he has epilepsy, And I bring his story page, I bring his album. And this last time I totally forgot to bring it. Um, I mean, obviously it was an emergency situation, but I mean, I forgot the day after to bring it until 2 days later. And when I brought it in, what a difference. I mean, the same guy who had checked us in, what, 3 days before or whatever it was, who barely had time for us. I walked in the room and he was over. He wasn't even assigned to tie that day. He was over looking at the album and reading through it. He had heard about it. The nurses were talking about it in a positive way. And then he stayed for another 15 or 20 minutes just talking. When we do this in the medical situation, when we do this in an educational, it doesn't matter what it is. It can't hurt to form a relationship. We've got too much research showing the difference that can make.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Well, I am so excited because I see all kinds of possibilities for families and students. And I mean, we can really make an impact on your child's services, supports, education they get this coming school year. Because when we, take the time and really look at what do we want teachers to know about our children. And I totally think we really need to, even with young kids, to be asking them the question, what do you want your new teacher to know about you? Or, or like, out of all the things we did this summer, what do we want to make sure your teacher knows? And so your child has ownership in it, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for being here, Barb.
My pleasure.
It's incredible, and the explosion of change that can happen when we look at, yes, photos, are part of the formula of having people know our kids, but the most important part is that story behind the photo. So any other words of wisdom before we wrap up here?
Well, I just have to say, oftentimes when we talk about doing anything with our photos, we get triggered. We get triggered because of, either frustration from the photo mess, or sometimes the emotions that can be hard to feel and experience. I just want to help you understand that it can be, and it is, much simpler than it's been made out to be, and much more impactful than anyone has ever realized.
Right.
And it's just sitting there waiting for you, if you will allow it to be as simple as it can be. Photo, story, next.
Right. Well, thank you so much. And I just am, I just love these kinds of ideas and ways that we can, and also, as a family, just connect more with the staff at school. And that makes a huge difference. So I appreciate you, Barb. And I just wanted to tell our viewers, I haven't been around much this summer, so I could take a photo of my incision from my right knee replacement and write a story about what I've learned about myself.
Well, I could write a few things about what I've learned about you, because you've been amazing. Amazing.
Well, I'm having my left knee done in a couple weeks, so I'm not sure when. I know we'll do another live in August. I don't know exactly the date because I just have to see how my recovery goes. However, I want you to know that I've been thinking of you, all of you out in our audience, and I'm just so thrilled that Barb and I were able to come on today, and Barb was our guest to
Thank
talk
you so
about
much.
that.
Thank you so
It's like
much.
you do amazing things. So I
So do
am
you.
Charmaine Tanner, and I look forward to the next time we can be together live, because one of my passions is to make sure that your child does belong at school, that they are seen as competent learners,
Mhm.
and that they do have contributions to make. So until next time, take care, and we shall see you later. And let's see if I can remember my music to take us out.